do a baby dedication to start, and we're going to go into our normal service. So there's been a ton of blessings in this church, and they just keep getting poured on and poured on and poured on. And when we decided to do the baptism service, Samantha and Cameron reached out to Stephanie, which if you ever need anything at the church, reach out to Stephanie, because if you reach out to me, I'm probably going to forget or not respond to the message. So just saying. Not that I don't want to, I just forget to respond to messages. But they said, hey, we would like to do something with our baby, Malia. The baby's name is Malia, and I'm going to say Malia a bunch because I kept saying it wrong prior to today. But this sweet child that has been born approximately 6 months ago, that came into this world, and Cameron and Samantha want this child to be raised in a Christ-centered home. So I need Cameron and Samantha and possibly Cameron's mother, if she's willing to come up. No, she don't want to come. I didn't think she would. They wanted me to ask her. And then Brother Mike, can you come up? Bruce isn't here, neither is Scott. They were supposed to be part of this, but they're both on vacation. So come on up. And so as we all know, children are a blessing. And one of the things I like to start with is always Scripture. Psalm 139, 13 through 16 reads, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret. Intricately woven in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as it yet there was none of them." Cameron and Samantha, I almost called you Cam and Sam. I told you I wasn't going to do that. This child, before it was ever formed, before the foundations of the earth was formed, the Lord had a plan for this child. And you guys doing your best to allow this child to live in the Lord's will is what we're doing today by that start of that journey, okay? We know children are a gift from the Lord and a blessing all on their own. We are called to have childlike faith, one that is trustworthy of our Father God, one that is curious of the love, power, mercy, and grace that God offers us each and every day. But more than that, the blessing of children teach us how to offer that love, mercy, and grace to our own children. On behalf of Lifesong Church, I want to thank Cameron and Samantha for choosing to raise your child in a Christ-centered home and asking all of the body of this church to help us pray for you, guide for you, and support you in this journey. We're going to start, okay? So I'm going to ask you some questions, and then I'm going to wrap up the questions to the congregation, okay? So pay attention, because there is a quiz at the end, all right? You want to come up here, honey? You're awkwardly sitting there. Cameron and Samantha, do you come today professing Jesus as the Lord of your life?
Yes.
As you know, children are a blessing and a gift from the Lord. Cameron and Samantha, do you accept and recognize this gift from God and make the choice to raise this child in the ways of the Lord through biblical instruction, discipline, and love?
Yes.
Cameron and Samantha, do you come today to dedicate this child into the ultimate control and will of God through the Lord Jesus Christ?
Yes.
Now to the congregation. Do you, Lifesong Community Church, family, friends, brothers and sisters in Christ, agree to support, console, and help serve these parents by your example and by the biblical lessons you've learned in your parenting journey? Do you agree to stand with these parents by praying for them and with them, encouraging them and being a godly influence in not only their life, but in the life of their child? If so, show your yes by standing up.
Look at her. She's like,
Okay, while we're standing, Brother Mike, please pray over this child. I'm not feeling well, so that's why I'm not touching the baby today.
God, we thank you for the day that you've given us, the joy of Malia's life. We thank you for her parents today. Here to show their willingness to raise this child in a church that believes in you as the one true God, who will instill in their life the principles of your word, God, today. A lot of joy in our church to see this family come here, enlarge itself, worship here. God, we just thank you for their lives, for the life of Malia today. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing as the worship team comes forward. for the reading of the word.
John 14:1. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me.
All right, now you can sit down. Children, you're dismissed for Children's Church. Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's another beautiful morning for everybody but the Gibbons kid who's upset. Children are a blessing even when they cry. We have to remember that. So, a couple of things. One thing that Maynard left out about the money ball is we went to money ball on Tuesday night and went up there, and he said when he got home, he turned the news on, and we were on the news. It was me and Bo and Asher and Maynard, Derek, and his son Jackson. And Maynard said what he found out with that was when we were on the news, there was like a picture of us being at the game. There was like video of us. We didn't know we were on the news, but he said what he learned was he needs older friends because we all made him look really old, he said. So, but it was a great time. It was a really good time, and children are a blessing, and it's crazy to think about when you go up there, and what I was thinking about watching that game is such a, because you're so close to it, is what if these men used all that talent to glorify God? Because I don't know these dudes, but I want to go there to watch basketball. Like, what if? Wouldn't that change things? Why don't we look at things differently, right? Just a thought I had. Well, good morning. Today, we're not going to talk about using our talents to glorify God. Well, we might get to there, but today we're going to talk about something all of us here have in common. Every person in this room shares this. Troubles in this world. I know we need to be uplifting and focus on the good, and that is why we did the baby dedication first, because I didn't want to preach this message and everybody feel like, wow, this is bad, and then we bring in a baby dedication, right? I wanted to start it off uplifting because children are such a blessing, and I didn't want to call Cameron and Samantha and say, hey, we're not doing this because of the message. God knew this was going to happen, and I know it's going to all tie together because that's what God does. It's not my job to do that. He's going to do that. However, we do have troubles because of going all the way back to Genesis 3. We have a problem, and that problem is sin. Now, we can look at the struggles, the hardships, and the sin, and we can ignore them and pretend they didn't happen, and we can fake a smile, or we can do what Scripture has shown us time and time again, and that's to face them head on. Whenever I think about struggles or hardships, everybody in church circles go to one book every time we go to the book of Job. Everybody does it. Like if you struggle, like, well, think about Job, man. And there's always two camps for Job. There's always the camp for Job that's like he lost everything, and the dude struggled, and even his wife was like, just curse God and die. You know, that's what his buddy said. What did you do to deserve this? And then there's the side that's like, well, he got tenfold everything, you know. So, like, look what he did. I'm always kind of like in between with Job because I'm like, he still lost everything. Like, even though he got tenfold, he still lost his original family, right? Like, it's always a struggle, and I always look at that, and I honor that he was able to stand firm in that. Well, when I was thinking of this, and I was thinking of Job, I came across Job 14:1. Not a coincidence that we're in John 14:1, and the first part of Scripture is going to be Job 14:1. It says, man who is born of a woman is few of days and full of trouble. That's pretty simple, man. If you're on this earth, you have a few days, our life is but a vapor, and it's going to be full of trouble. All right, it doesn't matter. Even in our most opportune times for struggle or for victories, there's always going to be struggle. It's just the way it works, all right? We're going to have troubles. We're going to have to face them, but we don't have to face them alone. We don't have to sulk in them, and mostly we don't have to let them define us. This is where a lot of times I see when it comes to church especially, we focus on our struggles because we don't focus vertically on Jesus. But before I go any further about our struggles, because some of us are like, well, that ain't me, what if we focus on what we don't have? What if we focus on what I wish I had? Like sometimes I think we're so busy worrying about things that we can't control. Am I going to get that promotion at work? Is this going to come through so I can get here? Are my kids going to do this? That we get so worried about things we can't control that we miss the blessing right in front of us right now. Like God has given us a blessing, but the enemy is smart. He's got 6,500 years of doing this. He's smart, all right? And I'm not being mean when I say this, but he's smarter than us. Okay, he's smarter than you. He knows what gets you. And then the enemy steps in and he was like, yeah, but if this is common, you deserve this. You deserve this. You should focus on what you deserve that you don't have. See how your neighbors got that? You see that family at church where they're just perfect and they walked in and their kids, I'll never forget this when I was being mentored by Travis, Pastor Travis Ambrose. I used to get so jealous because his kids were like robots in church. Like they never made a sound. And then we had Asher. He would just scream and yell and like smack the window in the nursery and everyone in the church would turn around like, that's ours. Yeah, that's ours. And I'd be like, I would covet for that. Like, why can't my kid just sit there and behave and not make any noises? And then one day I was leaving church after me and Travis had a meeting, and I heard Jenny just screaming at their kids, and I was so excited because I knew their kids were real, and they got yelled at. My point is we covet for things that we can't have and miss the blessing in front of us because we're not content. All right? There's going to be a lot of challenges I'm going to throw out today, and believe it or not, we're going to preach an entire sermon on one verse. A lot of rabbit trails, bear with me, but it's deep and we have to do it. So, verse 1, Kaylin just read it. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. So a few days prior to these words spoken by Jesus, he rides into Jerusalem on a donkey, and people are praising him, calling him king and Messiah. The disciples are on cloud 9. They're loving life. This is going to be great. Jesus is going to be king. We're going to get a spot at the table. We'll be free from Roman oppression. Life is good. They are fired up, dude. They're like, this is awesome. This is why we left everything. This is why we left our businesses. This is why we left our families. This is the 3 years we put into this. We're finally getting our payday. We're going to be like at the king's table. We're going to be able to make decisions. We're going to tell them Romans what's up. Because they're human beings. It's not like they weren't thinking that. You would think that. If everybody could just run their own sector of the world right now, like I'll be honest, I would be a really crummy God, okay? I would be. It's being honest. I'm a selfish person by nature. All right, God's not a selfish person. He's a loving God. He's a serving God. All right, I wouldn't be that way. This is me. I'm going to tell you a true story. I was driving to an appointment on Thursday morning. I left the firehouse for an hour. I had to go meet with a lawyer. I'm driving down the road to go to Jonesville, and I asked myself this question: why do I get mad when people drive slow? Why does that bother me? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, why do I get so upset? Why do I have a soap opera in my head that this person got in their vehicle to slow me down today and made me mad? I don't know who they are. The difference is they're probably better prepared than me, and they don't leave 5 minutes before they got to be somewhere. That's probably the truth of it. But that's my point. Like, we all think if we were in charge, we would make better decisions, we would do better things, and the truth is we wouldn't. Because we're not even good enough to take care of ourselves if we were being honest. But instead, we think if I was in charge, I would do this. You think I'm wrong? Turn on the news. You'll say you do a lot of things different. So these men, they're sitting in here. They're all fired up, right? Life's great. They sit down a few days later. They have their final meal with Jesus. So we just come out of John 13. They have this final meal with Jesus, and they go from being on cloud 9 to in the dumps very quick. All right? Jesus tells them, he says, hey, one of you guys are going to betray me. This is the crazy thing. They didn't know who it was because they were all capable of doing it. They all could have done it. So they were all upset about it, right? Then he looks at Peter, the boldest, strongest, most fiercest, and fearless one for Jesus, and he says, you're going to deny me 3 times. Now think about what's going on right now. Think about that. Think about what these dudes are thinking. They just went from being on cloud 9 to their whole world's getting flipped upside down. And they're starting to question everything. They're starting to say, why? Why is this happening? Like, God, I left everything to follow Jesus, and now he's telling me he's not going to be here. And then Jesus tells them he's leaving and going somewhere they cannot come yet. All right, so now these men, they're confused, they're nervous, they're anxious, they're upset, they're scared and lost, but God. See, the thing I love about the Bible is the Bible's real. And God didn't give me a lot of gifts in life, but he gave me one gift. That's to be real. Because here's the deal. I tell everybody this. People are like, I just can't believe like you're so open. If I pretend I'm somebody I'm not, I'm just going to disappoint you sooner or later. I'm just going to be me. And if you're disappointed off the bat, we saved everybody's time that way. That's how I figure it. So many times in life, people want to be somebody they're not. And then what happens is you find out the real person. I always tell this to young kids that want to date, okay? This is the biggest thing I tell young kids that want to date. Kids shouldn't date till they know who they are, first and foremost. So if you're in here and you're a teenager, stop dating. You're wasting your time. All right, you're just making drama you don't need. Secondly, I'm being serious. Secondly, the main thing is, if you don't know who you are, why are you wasting your time with somebody? And on top of that, don't be somebody you're not to win them over and then revert back to who you are originally. Now you've ruined everything. Just be you. Just be you. Because guess what? Jesus, he wants you just as you are, and then he's going to give you a version of you back that he fixed. Not that you fixed. Not that you're going to change. Not that you're going to get cleaned up for, but he's going to change in you. The more you try to change it, the tighter that noose is going to get around your neck. I can promise you. Why can I promise you that? Because I tried for years and years and years and failed miserably. Last Sunday was beautiful. We shared in communion together. We had this group step forward to get baptized and rededicated. It truly was beautiful. I want to share a piece of advice that so many times today we're going to talk about and here in the future as we're getting through John 14 and up through 15, 16, and 17. We cannot trust and believe in God in the good times and question him in the times of trouble. I see this all the time. We cannot trust and believe in God in the good times and question him in the times of trouble. I find more joy and comfort in praising God and trusting his sovereignty in the hard times than I do of times of ease, comfort, or wins. So I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about here, okay? You got to stay with me because this is the first rabbit trail. So just stay with me. This week I was working on something in my garage. And I've never had like a big toolbox. I've always said if I build a barn, I'm going to buy a really nice toolbox to keep my tools in. Instead, I just got buckets and tool bags, and they're just scattered everywhere, okay? So I'm working on what I'm working on, and Wednesday morning, I'm working on this project, and I stop what I'm doing. I just stop what I'm doing. I stand up, and I'm like, I'm done. I text Stephanie. I said, when you get home, we're going to Adrian. We're going out to eat, and I'm buying a toolbox. She's okay with a question mark. She's probably thinking, he's been in this sinus medicine again. He's not acting right, okay? So it seems harmless, right? Like that perfectly seems harmless, right? I just got up. I go to town. I get said toolbox. That night we get home, and I'm so excited. I'm putting this big toolbox together. My dad's there helping me. Bo's there helping me. They all go. My dad and mom go home. Bo goes in and goes to bed, and I'm like a little kid out there, like organizing all my tools. I'm so excited, right? Sitting in the garage. I don't have any worship music on, and then I hear this in my head. Matt, why do you run right out with such determination to make something you want easier in your way, but you do not share the same determination to tell others about Jesus? How many did you see just this evening while in town? How many did you talk to? How many did you tell about me? See the difference? Now, I could sit up here and pretend that didn't happen, but it did. Why is it for something to make my life easier? When I read this book every day, and I try so hard to have a vertical relationship with Jesus, why is it when I want something to make my life easier, I'll drop everything and go to a store and buy something to fix it, but I won't tell that dude at the checkout register about Jesus. I won't tell the lady at Culver's about Jesus. I won't tell the server that forgot our food at Buffalo Wild Wings about Jesus. That really happened. Why is that? Because we focus on us, that's why. And life is good. Life is good, so why would I worry about it? I'm just being honest, guys. I'm not saying you do this. I'm saying I do this, and I don't want you to do this. All right? This isn't a sermon about buying something or not buying something. This is a message asking us if we believe in God enough. Are we bold enough? Do we trust God enough that even in the times of trouble, we rest in his goodness and his plan? As Jesus said, let not your hearts be troubled. He wasn't saying, don't let this happen to you. He knew it had already happened. He is God and knew they were troubled. He is telling them to stop being troubled. Translated out of the Greek, the word trouble means to shake or stir up. Think when we are shaken or stirred up. And maybe we focus on whatever that is. We try ourselves to fix the problem. We hyper-focus on it. I had a pastor tell me once, I called him, I was very young in the ministry, and I called him, and I'm just unloading all these issues on him. And I'm like, you don't understand, man. He'd been a pastor, he's a current pastor of 52 years at the same church. And I'm just going off on him, and I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I'm telling him all these things that I'm struggling with and all these things and how I'm going to mess all this up, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and God totally messed up by calling me into ministry. And I bet I ranted for like 10 minutes straight, and he never, ever interrupted me. He just let me talk. He said, Matt, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. When was the last time God let you down? I said, Pastor Poole, why didn't you start with that? He says, because you were talking. Okay. My point is, in the times of the victories, we can cling to Jesus. But what about in the valleys? You ask any farmer here, stuff doesn't grow on top of hills very well, does it? No, it don't. But it grows in the valleys. It grows down there where everything runs down to it. All right? That's where stuff grows. That's where we grow with God, if we trust God. But see, a lot of times we trust God in the good times. We trust God when everything's going perfect. But what about when you get a phone call from a doctor that's not good? What about when you have an accident that changes your entire life? What about when your kid leaves and says, I don't want to do this no more? Do you trust God? Everything I just said can happen to any of us at any time. I always tell everybody this, we're all one bad decision away from ruining our lives forever. When I see people stuck in addiction, when I see people that are on the streets, when I see homeless people, one bad decision led to that. We better show them grace. Or one bad incident that you couldn't even control. It might be nothing you ever did. It could be something that happened to you, and you're stuck in it. Do you cling to Jesus in that? Do you go to God in that, or are you mad and bitter? These are all questions I have. I'm not saying you are. It's just questions I have. Even in our moments of doubt and fear, hurt and anger, lost and lonely, Jesus is there and he cares. Look at what just transpired in the last 2 chapters. Jesus knew these things would happen, and he knew the disciples would betray him, deny him, and scatter when he is arrested. He knew that. All right? He wasn't surprised by that. Check this out. He loves them so much. He cares about them so much. He tells them, do not let your hearts be troubled. He does the same for us and his children today. Jesus does care. He doesn't want us to be troubled. Like, if you ever think about it, like, let's just take a second. Like, everybody here think about the last thing they spent a lot of time focusing on that really didn't matter in the end. Isn't it kind of foolish to look back and think about? I get wrapped up on things like, for my kids, like things I want to control. And it's foolish. Like, it really is. Like, who's going to be their teacher, how this is going to go in school, and how these kids are going to act in school, and what are they going to do in this situation, and why don't I just trust God? Why do I think I need to steer the ship all the time? Because by nature, we want it our way. It's the same way we do everything to make our life easier. When we started this series, it was about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. You ever notice we're really good at telling other people that, but we're not good at doing it ourselves? Like, I'll be honest with you. Do you know why I wanted to buy a toolbox? My back hurt from bending over digging through tools. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm too young to have a hurt back. I'm going to go buy a toolbox. That's why we do things, to make it easier. We don't want to be uncomfortable. Anybody here that's been called into any type of ministry, not just preaching, but ministry, it's not easy. You know, every time I go to somebody and ask them something in church, you know the first response they give me? No. Nobody's ever like, yes, let me do that. Please. They're like, Well, I don't want. If I'm like, hey, the Lord, I feel like the Lord's telling me this. They'll be like, oh, not me. You got the wrong guy. I was joking with Maynard when I was going to the doctor for my heart issues. I'm like, Maynard, listen, we got to talk. I said, if I die, you got to be the next preacher. All right? And he's like, not me. You got the wrong guy. I'm like, well, you at least got to fill in, okay? He's like, See, I think so many times in life we want it our way and we want to be comfortable doing it. And can I be honest what we do? A real live moment. We take our life and we hold it in our hand. That's our life that we created our way, and we say, Jesus, sprinkle your blessing on this so it grows. But as long as it's this, don't make me come over here. He's telling the disciples to let not your heart be troubled because he knew they was fixing to be real troubled because he was leaving. He knew they were so focused on him. He was their blanket. He was their everything. They can't do this without him. That's what they're thinking, and he knows that's what they're thinking. And he says, I got to go. I need you to trust that you're going to be okay. And they're like, I can't do this. It's like the one time Abby told me, she said, Asher's going to be a missionary. I says, no, he's not. She said, Matt, I'm telling you. I was like, don't ever say that again. I said, he can be a missionary to Hillsdale. My wife always tells me, don't say that. Jesus does care, as he tells these guys, and he's literally sitting down with them, and he starts this off by saying, let not your hearts be troubled, and then he finishes it up with believe in God and believe in me. I was thinking about this, and I came across a quote by Pastor Chuck Swindoll. It says, looking to God in the midst of our pain helps us from bitterness to beauty. You ever think about that? So I always try to teach people to have a vertical vision instead of horizontal. If we have a vertical vision, even in our struggles, if we trust, and not just saying it like when it's good, I'm saying in that really, really hard time, saying, Lord, I know this is from you. I don't understand why, but I know it is, and I trust you in this. And I'm going to ride with you in this. Do we do that? I'm not talking about like, Lord, we can't pay this bill. I'm talking about like tragedy hits, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job you've worked forever for. The whole world gets flipped upside down. A sick child. Do you trust God? That's the stuff I'm talking about. Like, I'll be realistic for just a second, well, all the time, but just a real quick second on something. I don't trust, like, hospitals and doctors. Like, I don't. Being honest, like, I just struggle with it. I went to this doctor for all these heart issues, and they're like, you're good to go. And this is what they do. Check your my chart. Like, I don't even get to talk to a person. I got to check this chart thing that I can't even understand what it says. So when I get on Dr. Google, and I'm like, what is going on with me? Because I don't know. How do you trust people like that, man? You don't have to. You can trust God. You can trust God. You don't have to trust a doctor. Our focus goes to Jesus and not this struggle that we're up against. That is why Jesus said, let not your hearts be troubled. He's not saying, pretend this isn't happening and be happy. He's saying, be brave, but not in your own self, in Jesus. Trust Jesus, and you do that by believing in him and God as one. Last week, I was extremely uneasy about the service. Then Miss Clarissa, she messaged me this week, and she said, Pastor Matt, you seem very off on Sunday. I said, I was, because here's why. And I'm telling you this because I know this is going to happen to you, especially the young kids that took a step for Jesus last week. Noel, you're included in that. You're still a kid in my book. When you take a step for Jesus, when you're going to declare where you're at with Jesus, the enemy's going to remind you of everything you've ever done wrong. The enemy's going to remind you of how unworthy you are all the time. So when you take that step for Christ, if you're coming here with your family and you're like, we're going to be dedicated to the Lord, we're going to get this figured out. Maybe you weren't raised in church. Maybe you're 40 years old trying to figure this out for the first time. Good. That's awesome. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Don't be like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. And guess what? Neither did the disciples. Do you want to know what's crazy? The disciples had 3 years with Jesus, and they wrote most of the New Testament. 3 years. Most churches won't hire somebody unless they got a whole bunch of single letters behind their name. Do you know churches today would never hire the disciples? They would never hire the disciples. They would have never hired the Apostle Paul. They'd have been like, well, Paul, we see you got a murder charge here. That's going to be a problem. Not going to let you work with us. But God says that's enough to let you write almost the entire New Testament. But churches would beat the doors down to get Pharisees in there. And I'm just being honest, guys. I'm being honest. That's how it works. All right? I'm not proud about it, but it's because, and this is why. Our relationships in life are always horizontal and not vertical. It's like, if you like somebody, you're going to give them a pass. You ever notice that? Like, Miss Sharon, there's probably people in your life that they burn your cookies, don't they? And you're like, amen, right? You're getting fired. You're going to wave at Cain in a second, ain't you? You're getting excited. But you ever notice there's other people that you let things slide with? Where you wanted someone else, right? See, I'm gonna say something real hard here. I do the same thing. But Jesus don't do that. It's unconditional for everybody. And that's hard. You know, sometimes we think about what we deserve or we question what we deserve. Man, we better hope we don't get what we deserve. Because none of us deserve this. I was driving here this morning and I was praying because I woke up and felt like a Mack truck had hit me. And I said, Lord, I just want to tell you I'm grateful that you give me breath in my lungs. Even though you put a bunch of other stuff in there this morning, I'm grateful there's breath in there with it. Because, see, we should do that. We should be grateful for even in the struggles, even in the hard times. Because I'm telling you right now, I feel better right now than I did 20 minutes ago. And that's because of God and me trusting God in this. Just like the reason last Sunday was so beautiful, I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted nothing because I wanted it to be all Jesus, not me. Because I knew I'd mess it up. But to take children that I see my wife and us pour into and know they're getting dedicated to the Lord, baptized to the Lord because they want to take a stand for Jesus, I think I don't deserve that. I was a rotten human being for years, a terrible father, a terrible husband. Had tons of issues. And God says, that's the one I want. Not this version of me. He took me in my worst moment. And I think, why do we not tell everybody about that? Why do we walk by people and step over them and be like, well, I know you're struggling. I'm going to pray for you. And we don't even pray for them. Because we're afraid we're going to get dirty with them. It's foolish. It drives me insane. Because here's why I do it too. I don't want to do it. This is why the second part of verse 1 is so important. Believe in God and believe also in me. All the way back to John chapter 1, which was a long time ago, like January of 25 or 24 or something like that. I don't know. It was a long time, 25. We said the entire point of the book of John can be summed up in one word, believe. Jesus is not suggesting that people believe in God and Jesus as one. He is commanding it. He's telling everyone that he and God are one. This was the struggle the religious leaders had with Jesus. They said they were all in on God, but they did not believe in Jesus or the deity that he has. I didn't say had. I said has. Jesus has that deity. He's alive and well in us right now. He is here right now. Okay? He has that deity. It's not had. It's not past tense. It's present tense. We see multiple verses all throughout the Old Testament of Israel placing their faith and trust in God. Deuteronomy 6, 1 through 6 says the greatest commandment. Now this is the commandment. The statutes and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land which you are going over to possess it. That you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son and your son's sons, by keeping all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you, all the days of your life, and that your days may be long. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that we may go well with you, and that you may multiply greatly, as the Lord, your God of your fathers, has promised you, in the land flowing of milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. That verse, Deuteronomy 1:5, my uncle sent it to me this morning. He had no idea I was going to preach that today. That's just how God works. Psalm 31:14, this is from King David. He says, but I trust in you, O Lord. I say you are my God. In Psalm 56, 3 through 4, when I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust, I shall not be afraid. What can flesh do to me? Both those verses out of the book of Psalm you need to write down, you need to keep with you. 31:14 and 56, 3 through 4, especially the young kids. Psalm 56, 3 through 4, when I am afraid, I put my trust in you. Now we know that Israel had its fair share of leaders who strayed from God. However, it had a heritage of trusting God and placing faith in God. Like I said earlier, the religious leaders trusted God but not Jesus. And that is where the disconnect is. That is what Jesus is saying here. You don't get one without the other. Jesus is having this conversation with his disciples for one reason. So they believed. Here's the crazy thing. Here's the crazy thing. Jesus is fixing to leave. He's fixing to go back to glory with his Father. They seen him raise Lazarus from the dead. They seen him heal blind and crippled people. They've seen all these miracles that he did. They were there to see it. Now, I've seen a lot of dead people in my life. Some have we brought back through the production of CPR and AEDs, all right, and drugs. We've been able to bring them back, all right? But I've never seen somebody dead for 4 days that smelled really bad, that was decomposing, get brought back to life. And that still wasn't enough. Jesus knew that wasn't enough. Isn't that crazy? We throw shade at people for not believing in God, but these men gave up everything to follow Jesus and still questioned it, and he knew they would. Think about that. That's why John 14. They had to be told, listen to me, because if I don't tell you this, you're not going to understand it. That's how big this is. We can't just skimp over it and be like, well, yeah, we do know the rest of the story, but we know it so well that we forget it. It's like I say about John 3:16. Sometimes we say that verse so much we just say it. We almost dumb it down. Like God gave his one and only son for us. Not the pretty version of you, that real dirty version of you, because he knew that was your only hope to not be dirty. It's pretty crazy to think about. He wanted them to know that as he's getting ready to go back to the Father God, that he would always be with them, and they would then need to believe in Jesus just like they always had God. See, they had never seen God, but they believed in God. They were fixing to no longer see Jesus, and he wanted them to believe in Jesus because he wasn't going to be with them. That's why he said, believe in God and believe in me, because you're not going to see me in a little bit. They couldn't get their mind around that, okay? They trusted and believed in God, even though they had never seen God. And translated out of the Greek, the present tense form of the word believe means an ongoing trust in him. An ongoing trust in him. Translated out of the Greek, that's what believe means. An ongoing trust in him. The disciples had already placed their faith in Jesus by leaving everything to follow him. However, in just the past few days, their faith was beginning to waver. Has this ever happened to you? Things are going great, you take a step forward, you declare your faith in Jesus. You're in your Bible, you're teaching your kids about the Lord, you're telling others about the Lord, you're following Jesus, and then bam, things start to flip your entire world upside down. Do you question where Jesus is at? Is that what the disciples are about to do? And Jesus, being God, said, hey, I need to tell you something. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God and believe also in me. And then he breaks it down even further. Our focus has to be vertical. This is one of my big pet peeves in life. And I don't know how to fix it. It's going to sound bad. The older people in the church have it figured out. Because they've wasted all the time worrying, and they don't anymore. They're like, dude, it's not that big a deal. That sports team you're worried about doesn't matter. The grades your kids get in school really don't matter. The only thing that matters is, do you know Jesus, and does Jesus know you? That's it. And they're really, really good at being like not getting worked up about it. That's why they don't drive 70 miles an hour. They have it figured out. And I'm not throwing shade, but that only comes through experience. And why I said it bothers me is because I want to steal that from my kids. I want to control the outcome. I want to make sure they're safe. Something I've never understood in life. I spend a lot of time reflecting on myself, and I spend a lot of time, and Tyler told me this morning, he was like, dude, that guy's dead. Don't worry about it no more. I spent a lot of time kind of being in guilt of who I used to be. I know that Matt's dead, but sometimes I still see the effects of who that guy was in my kids and in my wife, and I don't like it, okay? One of the things I struggle with is how comes when our kids are little, they come to us and they're like, Dad, open this. Dad, isn't that right? Like we ask our parents everything. Mom, I need you to do this for me. Mom, I need to make sure you open this for me. Mom, please make sure I'm safe. But then kids hit a certain age where they think they don't need mom and dad anymore. You don't need to tell me what to do, Mom. I got it. I know more than you. You want to know the hard part? That's us with Jesus too. We do the same thing. because we're too busy saying, well, I'm not as bad as her, so I'm just going to focus horizontally on her, not vertically with Jesus. Because when you compare yourself to Christ, you're going to see how bad you are. The crazy thing is, the closer you get to young kids, pay attention, the closer you get to Jesus, the worse you're going to feel about you. True story. You're just going to wrestle with that sin. That's why Paul said he had that thorn in his flesh. It was there. He didn't want it there. But it's there. The closer you get to Christ, the worse you're going to feel about you. The heavier sin's going to feel. It's a crazy, crazy concept. We'll see in the coming verses of chapter 14 that Jesus will go into further detail about him leaving this earth and returning to God. And with that, there'll be another helper who will come be with us forever. Jesus cared about his disciples. He knew their shortcomings. He knew their flaws. He knew they needed him. That is why Jesus made it clear that even in their mistakes, in their shortcomings, he still loved them and wanted to draw them closer to him so they could continue to die to themselves. Do not think for 1 second he cared about their feelings, because he didn't. Jesus doesn't care about our feelings. He cares about our soul. You need to understand that. Your feelings lie to you. So many times people don't understand that. You want to know why your feelings lie to you? Your feelings tell you not to die to yourself. Your feelings tell you it's right to be offended. Your feelings tell you you should feel that way. God says, no, be like me. Die to yourself. Do not try to get even. Do not try to get the last word. I know you're comfortable on the couch, but your kids want you to get up, be a servant. Lead your family in a Christ-like manner. I'm talking to the men right now especially. It's not your wife's job to make you a sandwich and bring it to you. If she wants to, praise be to God, but do not make her. Yeah, Eric, I'm talking to you. I see that. Over there tapping your wife on the leg. We'll talk. And you can tell me how I mess up too, okay? So many times in life we focus on a horizontal, navel-gazing relationship and not Christ. All right? Jesus never, ever wants to come to you and say, I'm doing this to make you feel good about just who you are with that life in your hand, and you want me to sprinkle on it. No. He's saying, I want you just as you are, but let me change you. Let me make you a version you never thought possible. And you want to know when it's really going to be God? Is when people say, there's no way. There's no way that's you. There's no way you're doing that. There's no way. I know who you are. I know who you used to be. Yep, you know who I used to be. I went to breakfast with a guy, and he told me when he was invited to this church, he said, who's the pastor? They said, Matt Halleck. He says, there is no way Matt Halleck's a pastor. I say, but God, there is. I'll wrap this message up today with a quote from a book I come across by John Owen. The book is called The Forgiveness of Sin. It says, a sense of God's presence and love is sufficient to rebuke all anxiety and fears. And not only so, but to give in the midst of them solid consolation and joy. Thank you, Jesus, for that promise. Thank you, God, for loving us enough, even in our sin and our sorrow, that you sent your Son, your one and only Son, to die on a cross for my wretched self to spend eternity with you. Mercy I do not deserve, grace that is overflowing, and a love I can never fathom. Thank you, Jesus, for that. The worship team is going to come forward and close this service. I especially want to thank Brother Alex for still singing as we talk this week. He's not doing it on behalf of his own power, but of God that's given him the ability to sing, a gift that he has. Brothers and sisters, if anybody here today, these messages resonated on your heart, I ask two things. Don't leave here carrying that guilt and shame. If you're going to carry it up here and leave it